Good morning, CLC. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this service. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope that you are enjoying all the wonders and magic that comes with us welcoming in a new year. And as we welcome in the new year, we have lots of exciting things going on here at CLC. And now we come to our inner healing experience. I invite everyone just to take a few minutes, wherever you're seated. Take in a few deep breaths, breathing in the cool, crisp air, allowing it to fill your lungs, and release all that no longer serves you. As you breathe in again, let it fill your body with refreshing oxygen, revitalizing your spirit. And as you breathe out, release any stress or tension you may be holding in your neck or shoulders, in your abdomen or chest. Just let it ooze on out you. Allow your body to relax in this moment and allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words. I surrender. I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply. filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose.
I choose.
I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. In visualizing my idea as already acted upon and brought to pass, in seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words, I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me. I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release.
I release.
Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life.
Grateful for the good in your life.
Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life.
Oh, the summertime is coming, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pluck wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? I will build my love a tower near yon pure crystal fountain, and on it I will place all around flowers of the mountain. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pluck wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? would surely find another where the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pluck wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go?
Thank you for that. That was really pretty. Now, somewhere the trees are sweetly blooming, but here, for those of you out of town, temperature dropped 50 degrees in, what, 6 hours?
Yes.
So, well, I am Jennings, man of La Mancha. And this is the Basics of the Science of Mind series. This is, as several of you have remarked over the years, this is the one time a year when I know what I'm talking about. So make the best of it, all right? What we're going to do, 9 Sundays this time. 9, count them 9. 5 in January, 4 in February. We tried to get February to have a 5th Sunday. She didn't want to, so 10 ideas that make a difference showing up over 9 Sundays means 2 of those ideas split a week. But that's all right. We'll get to that, and that'll come next month. And this is, as Danielle said, tying in with a book study that Sarah's leading that is on this book, 10 Ideas That Make a Difference. And it took a while to snag this because it's out of print. So she scanned it. And she's got it as a PDF, and you can receive it for free from her to be a companion to these talks I'm giving and those studies she's leading. Does that make sense?
Yes.
10 ideas that make a difference. The first of these ideas is Self Renewal. Now, this book is not tied to the calendar year. I don't know how Ernest Holmes came up with the 10 or put them in the order that he did. But this first one is Self Renewal, which is perfect for right now, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
The turn of the year. So what I'm going to try to do, take you through these 10 ideas and the basics of our teaching. For the newcomer, a review for the old timer. And it looks like this. From the dawn of humanity, people have filed into temples, groves of trees, down by waterfalls, on beaches, wherever they considered it to be sacred space. And they've held rituals together. And they've sang songs, and they've sent up prayers, maybe offered a few sacrifices here and there. And they've come away from this experience saying, I feel better about myself. I feel better about myself for having done this. And if they missed a festival or whatever the interval of these things were, they really missed out on something. And they grieved, and they had to work extra hard then to get that feeling back the next time. You were probably raised in some sort of religious tradition. And you went and you felt what you felt. Where did you feel it? Where did the ancients feel it? They didn't feel it in their pockets. They didn't feel it in their hands. They felt it in their hearts. They felt differently about themselves. And why I'm telling you this is because when you hear things like God is within you, that's really vague, and it can even be misleading. It sounds like it's an internal organ or something, that's physically locatable. God is within you. The experience of the divine is within you, and it always has been. And when these ancients, your ancestors, or you yourself, or the people who are driving all over the neighborhood today, I stopped up the road here where they were waving them out, waved the new group in, Why people do this is they feel differently about themselves, and that's the God in them, is that feeling of, yes, I belong. I belong. These are my people. This is my tribe. We all believe more or less the same things. We all sing these songs, but not those songs, say these prayers, but not those prayers. We have our thing. We have our thing that we do, and we feel better about ourselves as a result. What the science of mind is about is capturing that feeling, independent of, but not exclusive of, the container of it. You see, we're not out to change anybody's religion. We're not out to save souls. We're not out to embrace the lost or convert the heathen or any of the rest of this stuff. We're out to point out to people that the experience of the divine is within you, and whatever path you take to have that experience, provided that it harms no one else, is perfectly wonderful and also interesting. And I read to you last week a holiday card that we received here from a faith community of another organized religion that was sent in reference to our beloved Reverend David Dewhurst back here, who is our interfaith liaison minister. Isn't that a heavy portfolio for him? Interfaith liaison minister. ILM is what we just call him. He's our ILM. And they said they so enjoyed getting to know him, and they poured out holiday blessings on us and all kinds of nice and sweet things. And that's how the world ought to work. And that's the kind of world I want to live in, is where, okay, I don't have to quit what I'm doing and go join them to be okay, and they don't have to quit what they're doing and come here. And it's not about that at all. It's like, I don't know, restaurants in a way. Restaurants in a way. Every restaurant has its specialty. It has a certain kind of cuisine that it offers. And if you're full up on that and you want something else, go try somewhere else, But all of it feeds you, all of it nourishes you. It's all a meal. It's all just a matter of style. It's a matter of interpretation. All of the differences that we arm wrestle over in this world about religious affiliation. Such a waste of time. Because it's how you feel within yourself. That is your relationship in the divine. What is our relationship to life? In this teaching, we maintain that there's nothing wrong with you. That the spiritual practice is not an exercise in healing your pathology. Okay? See, there's a school of thought, and you're probably familiar with it, that says that this whole thing is a terrible mistake. that people were created immediately they disobeyed God. They were given the simplest, the meme for this right now is you had one job. You had one thing to do: not eat from that tree. Do not eat from that tree. I pointed at the Christmas trees. What am I doing? And I begged. I got a text from Denise Lagway Slate, who, along with Marissa and Oceana and Monica, created these beautiful, and Melody T, who created our Christmas Eve tableau that was over here. But I got a text from Denise. She says, "You want me to take all this down before Sunday?" And I'm like, "No, please, please leave it, please leave it." So you come back in March, it'll probably still be here, because it's so cool. But we had one in this school of thought that you're familiar with. Theologically, we had one job, which is pay attention to God. Do what God tells you to do, and don't do what God tells you not to do, and we blew it. You didn't, and I didn't, but our ancestors did, and we're paying the price up to today. And so, a whole body of work kind of follows after that of we're unworthy. We're unworthy, and we have to do something about that. And so we have to go to God, and we have to make the sacrifices and sing the songs and send up the prayers and do all of this stuff to make ourselves worthy again. The problem with that is, if you have it so deeply embedded in yourself that you're unworthy, no matter what you do externally isn't going to pry that loose from the floor of the subconscious. In this teaching, we have an entirely different viewpoint. It is that you were born in magnificence. As Shakespeare said, a star danced, and beneath that you were born, that you were born in magnificence, in wonder, in beauty, in this, and absolutely as the experience that God or source or creator is having in this world at this time by means of you. And only you can mess that up by believing something else about yourself as your defining truth. Now, we go through lots of beliefs in life, and we go through lots of activities and behaviors, but you and I have defining truths about ourselves. We have a core value or core sense of self, And whenever that gets moved around, like dominoes falling, it creates an effect, a reciprocal effect in terms of experience. That's to put it as bluntly as I possibly can, that's the damnable thing about all of it. Is it's done to us as we believe, which is wonderful when we're believing high and holy things, and not so wonderful when we're not. The universe responds by corresponding. So here's the thing. If we believe fundamentally that we're unworthy, a whole bunch of experiences start to line up at the door to confirm that, not because it's true, but because it's what we believed. And these experiences line up to confirm that, not to punish us, but to educate us on the power of belief that we have. They're telling us you're heading in the wrong direction. You're steering yourself into the ditch. Often we don't interpret them that way. Instead, we say, well, you see, here's more incoming information about my unworthiness, and we pile it on ourselves. Until at some point in time, we get really tired of this, and this is when people have this experience like, the bah humbug experience, okay? The experience, I'm done with all of this. I'm done with God, I'm done with religion, I'm done with everything else, because no matter what I do, I keep getting piled on. But it's a function of consciousness. It can be changed at any time. And the tricky part is, we change it before there's evidence to confirm the change. We extend ourselves before we're applauded for doing so. That takes nerve. It really does. To just up and decide, I'm all right. Now, by all right, let's look at all right for a moment. By all right, we don't mean better than everybody else, better than everybody who isn't having the same experience of self-renewal. We mean I'm all right within myself as a complete entity in spirit. As a matter of fact, everybody else is all right too. Now, they may be different, making different choices, have different backstories and all the rest of it, but everybody's all right. Everybody's all right. But for a moment, just a moment, I'm going to take my attention off everybody else. You and I have been schooled since we were this high to pay attention to what everybody else is doing, What do they think about me? Do they like me? Do people like me? And it's been wisely said, people spend a whole lot less time thinking about you than you might have guessed. Because they're into, do they like me? And you see what I'm saying? And so there's this dance that goes on around. Well, for a moment, we're going to take our attention off what the crowd is doing, or what the crowd is believing, and we're going to put the attention within the self and say, what am I getting out of this? What am I getting out of life? How is life working for me? Am I getting what I expect? And is what I expect what I want to expect? Is what I expect what I prefer? Is what I expect what I prefer? It's done to us as we believe, and belief is a combination of thought and feeling. Probably about 20% thought and 80% feeling, I guess, if you had to break it down. Thought steers the operation. Feeling engulfs it. Feeling wraps itself around this new idea. And together, these things form what we call belief, a dynamic package of energy that attracts like unto like. So, if I believe that I'm all right, life starts to line up to confirm that. It doesn't make me king or God or, some kind of crazy over-the-top nonsense. Instead, it just says, you're all right. All right, good. You have a plan? Great. Work it out. You have goals? Sure. Here's some ideas. Here's some contacts. Here's some friends. Here's some supply. Stuff begins to come together. The musicians decide to create a song, today. And it's like, okay, here's some instruments, and here's the whole theory of music back of that. Here, you work with it and do what you will. Nothing is withheld. It's like, no, you can't have that. Life isn't snatching stuff away from us. When we believe that we're all right, we get what we need. And when we expand our imaginations, we get more. Say, says the musician, I think I'd like to paint. Well, all of a sudden, there comes into that person's experience, not only, paints and canvas and stuff, but landscapes to look at. They notice things. They see things in the world. There's in Texas Monthly this month, there's a collection of best Texas photographs, and they're gorgeous. They're unexpected. And the first one's really funny because there's this picture, and it says, here are some horses. Here are some wild horses out in this pasture. And you look hard at the picture, and they're camels. Somebody miscaptioned it, but there it is. But you start to notice that kind of thing. Oh, say, that'd make a nice picture. You see what I mean? It's like when you learn another language, you know that you're gaining mastery in it when you start to dream in it. When you're not just hunting for the right way to say something, but it comes to you naturally and fluently, and you dream at it. It becomes another aspect of your character. This is how life can work when we believe that we're all right. And when we believe that other people are all right, they treat us better. And when we believe we're all right, we're not as suspicious of everybody else. What do they want from me? We get a lot of information these days about what to watch out for. The people they're gonna scan the credit cards in your pocket, and they're gonna do something with your receipt at the gas station, and they're going to get up under your car and pull stuff off, and everybody's all nervous about what everybody else is going to do. It's a phase we're going through in the culture. I think in the long run, we're going to come back to the realization of it's still done to me as I believe, as it was to my distant ancestors. When you trust yourself, you trust other people more. It doesn't mean you give them the keys to everything in your life. It just means that you expect respect. You expect an interaction that's wholesome and healthy for both of you. And so life works better. And people say, yeah, but what about the afterlife? Do I get a ticket to that with all of this? Well, you never haven't had one. See, it goes back to this whole thing of, you want to be part of the tribe, you want to be included, you want to be part of the in-crowd spiritually, you already are, and there's nothing you can do about that. And if you join some strange little group that meets somewhere, you're still right in the part of it. And if you join the masses of people and everything they believe, you're still a part of it. The one thing you can't do is stop being who you are, which in this instance means the experience that Spirit is having in this world at this time by means of you. That's the one thing you cannot do. You can pretend you're not, and therein lies the rub. Ernest Holmes says things that sound almost Zen-like sometimes. He'll say, we're so free that we're bound. And we're like, wait a minute, that sounds like 1984 or something. We're so free that we're bound. What does that mean? It's because we have free will to make up our own world and live in it, step into it, that we can create a binding experience out of our own imagination. Imagine that we don't have the choices that we have, that we don't have the liberties that we have, when in fact we do if we just exercise them. So the science of mind is a philosophy, and it's a faith, and it's a way of life. It's really not a religion. I'm a minister. This is a center. It used to be a church. We started it as a church, and it morphed into a center, which is more on point to what it actually does. I know if it quacks like a duck and all the rest of it, and it's, Sunday morning, and we're sitting in, But it really isn't a religion. It's an augmentation to religion. That's what it was created to be by our founder, Ernest Holmes. It wasn't like, hey, y'all stop being that and, come do this. It was, here's the core of your spiritual practice. Whatever understanding of deity you have, that you have a relationship with, believe that you deserve to have that relationship. Believe that you belong there. Which brings me to my Uncle Harold. Wanted to tell you about my Uncle Harold. Why? Because you're a captive audience, and I feel like talking about my... You're actually not at home right now. You're clicking. No, it's time for breakfast. Right? My Uncle Harold. My Uncle Harold married into the family, married my Aunt Joyce, and became the only Catholic in our family. My mother's side of the family, anyhow. We were all Episcopalians. And you might say there's a very fine difference between Episcopalians and Catholics. Well, not if you're an Episcopalian or a Catholic. Especially in those days, because this was pre-Vatican II. I loved my Uncle Harold. He's been gone almost 40 years now. And he was hilariously funny. This guy was a good-hearted guy. Funny, funny, funny. He was so funny, he was really annoying to grown-ups. But I loved, for example, and I think of him at the holidays, we'd have holiday dinners. He and Joyce would come in from Jersey to our apartment, and we had, like, say, Thanksgiving dinner. And he liked to cook, so he'd help my grandmother, who was the main cook in the family. He'd be out in the kitchen, and he'd come in with the roast beast on the platter, And he did this like 2 or 3 or 4 times over the course of what I remember of my childhood. He'd get to the threshold of the dining room and pretend to trip, okay? And everybody bought it. Every time he did this, they're all, and Joyce would go, oh, Harold, roll her eyes. And she couldn't help it, kind of smile. The last time, I'm not making this up, the last time he did this that I remember, the thing almost came off the platter. And a little juice kind of sloshed, onto the tablecloth. And my grandmother stood up and yelled at him. And I sat there thinking, this is going to be the best Christmas ever. He'd roll up when the grown-ups were, I was an only child, see, so like I got a lot of, I don't know, I had a particularly skewed view of grown-ups and family and all, And so while the grown-ups were talking, he'd sit down by me at the end of the table, and he'd take his napkin and he'd roll it up like a theater drop, and he'd make tragedy and comedy faces behind it, and I'd crack up, and then everybody'd look at me like I was misbehaving, and he'd just be eating his, that kind of thing. This is who this guy was. Why I'm telling you this, I miss him because he, it's a holiday memory, but I'd go stay with them in Jersey 3, 4, 6 times a year over a weekend, and he'd take me to Mass. On Saturday, he liked to go to Saturday Mass because it was less crowded, and he'd go he'd do confession first, go in the confessional, and then he'd come out and we'd sit there, and beautiful church, beautiful old church. I don't remember the name or the details, but it was pretty empty on Saturdays. And the Mass, and this is, as I say, pre-Vatican II, so it was in Latin. And I said, now I didn't know what was going on. It looked sort of Episcopalian, but, and we do all of this. Well, this happy-go-lucky, cheerful, really gregarious guy got really serious at these experiences, really serious. I don't mean gloomy or mean or anything, just there was no funny business about it, This was for real. And I sat there and I watched this, and I was really young, so a lot of this is interpretation I've placed on the story since. This was where he renewed himself. This was where he got recharged. This is what enabled him, this experience of going to this place where he allowed himself to have these feelings of being in, is what gave him the ability to be as confident in himself and life-loving and life-affirming in himself as he was all the rest of the time, when I saw him. He also had a very difficult job. You know what he did for a living? He coordinated all of the snow plows in the 5 boroughs of New York for the Department of Sanitation. A very, very big job for a substantial part of the year, you know, and a lot of responsibility, and there's a lot of political back stuff in those days. And, you know, how he managed all of this and how it was what he did. And it stuck with me. Now, part of me could have said, well, I should have joined his church. I should have joined his religion, because that's where you get recharged. But what I realize, and you realize, is that it's the permission that you give. See, if you'd taken them out of that environment, put them over here and said, well, you don't get confession and you don't get Mass, you get these other ceremonies or something, it's questionable whether he would have given himself permission to feel as renewed as he did where he was. Which is why a wonderful teacher named Herbert Benson, who wrote the MD, who wrote the relaxation response. Every time I give a name, I see their heads go down here because they're putting it, right? They're Googling it up. Well, let's look that up. Wrote a book called The Relaxation Response. He's a Harvard MD who works in consciousness studies, or did. Had a piece of advice that was non-medical for his readers. He said, you want healing in your life, go back to the religion of your childhood and make peace with it. You know, and realize that what they were offering in their way was what you were seeking and found somewhere else. And that's all right. It's all right that you found it somewhere else, but it was all right for them to be who they were when you were there, and so on. You see, where is this work being done? It's not about going, you know, finding some elderly priest somewhere and saying, I'm sorry, I didn't pay attention, and, you know, I didn't get that. No, it's not about that at all. It's all internal. It's all internal. When you feel like, if you want to take the next step, that you're in heaven right now, that it's not some afterlife destination, but it's a state of consciousness. If you want to go so far as to say that, who's to stop you? Who's to deny it? If you want the whole earth to break out into song, if you want every person, every neighbor to be a friend, you know, every person that you encounter to be a pleasant experience in your life, who's to stop you but you? Who's to stop you but you? You say, well, the news. No, the news doesn't stop you. You stop you around the news, around the story of what somebody else is doing or thinking, or something like that. If you decide that life is good, if you decide that people are basically good. There's a new book out, and I don't remember the name of this one, so I'll have to bring it up to you next week, but there's a new book out basically saying that historically there's evidence that life works. Okay? That rather than, like about human nature, that rather than human nature being this wild, kind of Lord of the Flies sort of awful thing over which there's a thin veneer of civilization put, that in fact the truth of us, despite the fiction that's entertaining, the truth of us is that really we're basically good, kind, compassionate, caring entities who have to be moved around or move ourselves around enough to blunt that and turn mean. Which brings to mind Buckminster Fuller's quote about, Miss Manners. Whoa, Miss Manners quote. Don't want to miscredit this one. Could have been either one of them. Miss Manners said, there are no geniuses, some of us are just less damaged than others. Yeah, I think that was Miss Manners. Y'all can look it up. And so what that means is that given an environment, given enough harm, we can doubt our own magnificence. But even so, and this is edging into the material for next week's talk, even so, it was at some level a choice to redefine ourselves. Not a choice to be harmed, but a choice to redefine ourselves over the harm, over the misunderstanding, over what went on. And we can be free at any moment to decide, I'm all right. I'm all right just the way I am. And I belong. I belong here right at the center of the human family. And I have something to offer that people are interested in, that people find use in. I can be a good friend. I can be a good support to people. I can be an Uncle Harold. I can be funny, you know, if nothing else. And he was other things too. But I mean, I can make this kid happy, make this kid smile, you know, and laugh and all. And how great is that, you know? I can walk through life looking for joy. I can live in the moment. I could seize the moment and take advantage of what's right before me to see, like this beautiful meme that Lisa put up on the center's Facebook page about living in the now. You know, what I'll do in this coming year. So often it's about, well, I'm going to accomplish this and that. By August, I hope to have blah, blah, blah. And all of that's great, but at the same time, right now, it's the 2nd of January. It's a really surprisingly cold day, but it's bright sunshine out there and wind. That's why there's bright sunshine, is because of the wind, because it blew all the clouds away. And to just be with that and have a kind word, if you would, too, for the azaleas, because they didn't see this coming, you know, and have a good thought for the people who suffer, like the people around Boulder, Colorado, who lost their homes in high winds like this, when a fire suddenly jumped up, and people everywhere who suffer, and to not let that get to you and burden you, where, oh God, who else, what is it now? What is it now, you know? To not let that get to you. You gotta have self-renewal. You gotta have a well that you drink at, so to speak. You've got to have, like Mass on Saturday was for Harold, you've gotta have somewhere that you go physically, but mostly internally, spiritually, mentally, where you go and you remind yourself. And that brings me to this, to close with our form of prayer, which we will dissect in the weeks to come, is a reminder to the self. It's not, oh God, please give me this, and I know you probably don't want to, but maybe if I pray hard enough and beads of sweat break out on my forehead, you'll see your way clear to blah, blah, blah. And oh, by the way, could you also, and I know you want to fix this person over here, because we both know they're living all wrong, you know. And instead of that kind of prayer, we remind ourselves right here in the midst of all of this, be it trouble, be it chaos, be it beauty, be it wonder, there is one life. That life is God. That life is all the life there is. That life is my life right now. And I stand right here in the midst of that life, and for this moment, I ask nothing more from it than to just be what it is. I am enough as I am. And anything I choose to add on to that is just gravy. If I have talents I want to perfect, new skills to learn, if I want to go on a diet because it's the new year, if I want to make some other big life choice, I want to exercise, I want to quit my bad habits, all of that is gravy. But it's helped along, oddly enough, by the knowing that right here where I stand, warts and all, I am enough. I am the beloved of the source, just as I am, with nothing added or taken away. Now, as I realize this sense of calm, peace comes over me, I'm more attuned to what is so in the moment. I'm more aware of others, not in terms of their opinions about things, but in terms of their enoughness just as they are. And this takes the shape of a silent blessing that I offer to all who come my way. so this blessing, this knowing, transfers from mind to mind and heart to heart, enabling peace to break out, enabling communities to form, wherein everyone is mutually supportive and understanding, wherein heaven on earth is able to appear. And it all starts with my next choice, my next thought that I follow into feeling. For this knowing, for the way that this manifests in form, and for this beautiful new blank canvas called 2022 that stretches before me, that starts right now, this very minute, for me, in my heart. I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
And so it is.
As we come to giving time and our ushers make their way to the back, I want to invite anyone who's here for the first time to let us know. Please raise your hand if this is your first time with us. Well, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this service. And if there's anyone online and this is your first time with us, please let us know. You can send us a message in Messenger. You can always send us a Facebook message. You can email us at info@creativelife.org. Always skywriting, Telegram, SOS, all that's welcome. So thank you for that. Thank you for being here and a part of this. And I invite you now to say with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
and now I'm going to stand up straighter and do my job. And Jesse said something, and I don't know what it was that's made me think of this quote, but this morning, I'm currently working out of the 365 Days of Richer Living, and in January, he has 3 quotes instead of just one, and he had a quote from the Bhagavad Gita, and I went to look it up, and well, welcome to translating languages. I couldn't find the quote that they used in the book, but it was to dispel the darkness born of ignorance. We lift the shining lamp of wisdom, which I've also seen it called the light of knowledge and compassion as well. And so I don't know what he said that made me think of that, but there it is. So I am going to lift that light of wisdom for you now, and remind you, as I know, that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And I am made of that love. I am made by that love, and I am made for that love. As it flows through me, so too do I know about each and every one of you in this room, on this broadcast, in this world, in this universe, in this, that we are made of love, and we are made to channel love, and that love comes in all shapes, all sizes, and all forms. There is no right way to love, just as there is no wrong way to love. There is simply love. And so I am knowing, as we move through this week and into this year, into this 365 opportunities, that we expand into that love, that love grows us, and that love spreads out into the world. And right now, what it looks like is a hug from someone. It looks like a phone call from someone. It looks like a hot meal. It looks like a warm coat. It looks like resources moving into the areas around Boulder where the grass fire were happening. That love looks like snow that helped to manage that. Whatever else love looks like, let it grow you. Let it know you, because it already does. So let you know it. And I am grateful to know this love. I am grateful to be this love. I am grateful to be surrounded by this love in the form of you. And I am grateful for this place. I am grateful for this teaching. I am grateful for these people, the senior minister, Reverend Jesse, our musicians, who can throw together like nobody's business. This team of people who come together every week to put this together, to give you a place to grow your love. I am grateful for all of that. And I am simply grateful for the knowing of the one. And I release my law. No, I release my love and my word into law. And know that it is so. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love
So
it.
it is.
And so it is.
Yeah, no kidding.